Hi, my name is Wade Wickus, CEO of Supply Chain Secret Sauce. We are the secret sauce to your supply chain, and we help many companies, specifically in e-commerce, to succeed in their supply chains. On this next podcast, you're really going to enjoy this. Check it out, and thank you for watching this channel.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Home Delivery Show, live Secret Sauce. We're podcasting right here today. It's so exciting. We're talking to CloudSort today, and I'm going to introduce here Ryan Park, who has joined CloudSort in January of 2020. He's heading up product development and insights for the company. In this capacity, he leads development of the technology stack and is responsible for the team creating analytical tools to provide actionable insights for multiple constituents, both internal and external to the organization. Ryan, thanks for coming to the show. Appreciate having you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Wade. Really excited to be here.
Well, it's a busy show, and I know you have a lot of stuff going on, and thank you for taking time to do this. I think the first question.
Yeah, thank you for that. Great question. So start off with CloudSort first. What CloudSort is, we're a logistics technology company, and we're really focused on solving for the middle mile of the supply chain, which we'll talk more about in a bit. Solving for the middle mile, we're then able to really change how package goods move within the supply chain to become more efficient, more dynamic, and also more scalable. And then, maybe we talk about what middle mile is for the audience, just in case.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah. What is the middle mile?
Yeah. So it's one of those things where everyone participating in supply chain or having a delivery program, they all have a middle mile, but they tend to not really think about it. And that's part of our mission at CloudSort, to provide that visibility and empower folks in it. So what middle mile is, taking a step back, a lot of folks are familiar with the first mile. That is where you do inventory, fulfillment, for example. Then you have the final mile. That's where you do delivery to the client's doorstep. So everything in between those two nodes, the first and last mile, is the middle mile. And that's where we as CloudSort and our technology is really focused on. And then maybe the next thing is to talk about why is middle mile important?
Yeah.
If that works with. Okay. So why is middle mile important? So ultimately, when we talk about delivery programs, things like a 2-day delivery, right? That's pretty mainstream now. In order to achieve that, you need a middle mile to facilitate the movement from, like we talked about, the first mile to last mile. So it's a space that is really important, especially for retailers and shippers. And up until we as CloudSort have started to provide capabilities in the middle mile, it's one of those spaces in supply chain that is, one, not really noticed, but also too expensive or too complicated for retailers and shippers to participate in. The reason why is because the traditional middle mile is like a hub and spoke model, large real estate requirements, expensive auto sorters, technology that doesn't exist. And it then forces retailers to utilize existing larger carrier network and also, more of your status quo solutions that exist already. And because of that, nothing's really been able to change, specifically in the middle mile, up until CloudSort was able to provide solutions. And we'll maybe talk about that next. But in order to address those pain points that I just talked about in that problem space, we as CloudSort, our core to our software is a modular version of the middle mile to provide this solution and design it for everyone. And that's something we're super excited about.
So just kind of restating some things. So the middle mile is really just solving that from the warehouse to the parcel carrier, first destination of that sorting, and making sure that that is done most efficiently, whether it's skipping zones or whatever your software, which is very disruptive, meaning that it is a game changer in this marketplace. And so that solution will help drive optimization. I think that is important. You're right. I think there's a lot of retailers that struggle with that, and it's very challenging. So thank you for bringing in those insights. As we look ahead 5 years down the road, where do you see this middle mile expanding to or growing to?
Yes, I can talk about what we as CloudSort are doing, and I think that's probably going to set the trend for what's going to happen in the middle mile. So I think it's a good opportunity now to talk about the modular middle mile model that we're talking about. So there's really three components of a modular middle mile. Component one is being able to launch anywhere and very quickly. Component two is the ability to make real-time changes. And then component three is being cost effective or low enough costs for retailers and shippers of all sizes to be able to own their middle mile. The cost piece is then broken up into two major buckets. One is real estate, which I know we talked about a little bit earlier. So when you have a software like CloudSort that's able to deal with all these like complex decision making in the middle mile, you're then able to condense the amount of space you need to be able to provide the sortation and middle mile movement. So instead of like your traditional facility that's up to 1 million square feet, maybe in a remote area, that's usually the case for like the hub and spoke model, right? To kind of consolidate things. We are now able to, using the CloudSort software, do this activity in facilities that are like a 10,000 square foot building, for example. So that's a huge savings in terms of space. And then the benefit of that as well is, one, you don't need to launch your own facility. You could maybe rent like a portion of someone's facility. And two, that smaller space enables CloudSort's clients, for example, to launch facilities that are closer to population centers and then reduce some of those stem miles as well. So that real estate piece is a huge benefit with the modular middle mile and what the CloudSort technology provides. And then the second piece is a lot of shippers and retailers and folks who are interested in the middle mile and like an existing example at a facility, and they'll see these really complex auto sorters that are very expensive. And what we at CloudSort are teaching folks is you don't need that with our software. Like the software is driving these sortation decisions, and you could, again, work in these really small spaces and just have some very affordable like rollers to move your packages and things like that. So the real estate and equipment is a huge opportunity that we've been able to create savings. And then the last piece is being cloud-based. We're also able to make the software affordable and usable and existing, laptops like we're on right now and phones and things like that. So that is kind of where we're at with the modular part of it.
Gotcha. So the return on investment is pretty strong when you think about all those things and the expenses associated with that. And when you start reducing the expenses, that helps your ROI. So in terms of like getting on board, how long does it take a company, or how do you go about it? Do you do an analysis and do you say, hey, here's what we could save? Or, I mean, how do you even go about this from a CloudSort perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question. So generally, when we're working with a client, for example, then there's an analytics component to it. So we have models that we use that are pretty standard here at CloudSort. It's really, package volumes by like zip code, for example, is like the two variables that we typically will ask for. And then we'll run that in our software. And then from there, we'll be able to share like working backwards from what the client's looking for. Let's say they are interested in like a USPS post office final mile solution. We have that data in our software already. So our model will ingest the latest USPS network data and then provide the coverage for the client. And then typically that's something where it's like clients interested in a 2-day delivery network for, let's say, Southern California or something like that. So that analytics is something that we can run fairly quickly. The actual onboarding time really depends on the client, but from our side, like it's as quick as, a day to really set up if everything is operationally working out well for the client. Because again, we're a cloud-based solution. As long as we have like connectivity either through Wi-Fi or LTE, we can just quickly set up our software at really any facility.
That's the key, right? I guess that's why you're named CloudSort, to make it so simple. So that's awesome. That's great. And AI is really a hot topic right now. Do you see like AI being impactful to what you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. So AI is core to the CloudSort technology. I think I can like share an example of like how we use it currently. And then obviously the AI technology is growing at an exponential rate that we're super excited about here at CloudSort, because that is a core part of our software. So I know we talked about USPS final mile. I think that's a great example. So we have a couple clients that are in fulfillment, for example, that are trying to build out their 2-day delivery network using USPS post offices, also known as like the DDU program, in case there's folks that are familiar with that. Now, the challenge with the USPS post office as a final mile carrier is there's a ton of data because they're all over the entire US, and the data changes all the time of like which post office serves for which zip codes and things like that. So that was a pain point that we identified here at CloudSort and have used our technology, which includes AI and machine learning, to ingest that USPS data that changes, potentially daily, while also being able to unlock that capacity for our retailers. And in this instance, it was a fulfillment partner. So what the use case was that was pretty interesting was the client who was in fulfillment wanted to do 2-day delivery starting in Southern California. And we were able to, again, like with our modular platform, launch that fairly quickly for this client. The thing that really highlighted like why modularity is important actually happened peak of last year. So peak season for the viewers here, right? That's when you have holiday volume spikes, and that's when, if you have a 2-day promise, you need to be ready to communicate to your end customers like, hey, sorry, it's going to be 3 days, right? So we don't want to accept that, and retailers don't want to accept that, especially nowadays where folks really are used to like 2-day delivery as a standard, right? So what we were able to do with our technology at CloudSort that was super interesting was using like predictive analytics, elements of AI. Our system was able to predict that one of the post offices that was delivering in like the LA metro area was at risk to be over capacity. So our system identified that, and then we were quickly able to find a nearby post office that could serve the same zip code,
That's huge.
move that volume during
Yeah.
peak time, and still maintain that 2-day delivery promise, which is awesome, right? And that's
Yeah.
something that AI, machine learning, a modular middle mile like CloudSource technology can provide for retailers and shippers.
That's fantastic. What a great example. Thank you for sharing that example.
Yeah.
This kind of technology, this disruptive sort of field really changes the games in terms of like leadership and skill sets that are needed in supply chain down the road. Would you give any advice to those, young professionals and or just out of college? What should they look to get into to understand more about the middle mile and technology and kind of really blending technology with solutions in supply chain? What would you recommend?
Yeah. So wait, I'm going to give you an answer that's going to sound a little cheesy, but I promise I'll get into the business logic. So this gets into like one of our core CloudSort values, which is together we win. But I truly believe in collaboration as like the big point here. And the reason why that's important is because we have an opportunity through collaboration to really in the middle mile, that's a central function, right? So if we're talking about like new leaders, folks who want to get into space, collaboration is super important for bridging the fulfillment, the first mile to obviously the middle mile, which is what we specialize in CloudSort, and also the final mile. So what does collaboration do? Like, why is this important? So I think example to kind of share about this is we had a client who, again, they're interested in connecting to a new final mile carrier that would enable them to provide like a 2-day delivery service. Instead of creating like new capacity where we're trying to find new real estate, put more trucks on the road, we instead had a logistics partner, and we have this model called the host model. So CloudSort doesn't need to be the one to launch like new facilities all the time. We can have a CloudSort host. And this now is something pretty unique. And again, going to that together we win value, where we are now not just serving the demand side, but also the supply side as well. So we had a partner in Chicago. They have a facility there that they already had. And then we asked them, hey, would you be interested in sorting packages for this client for their 2-day delivery program? And they were interested in it. We gave them the CloudSort software, which is super simple to use. Again, asset light solution. You don't need auto sorters or anything like that. 10,000 square foot building, gave them just like simple rollers to start sortation, gave them our software, and then everyone was able to benefit. So real estate costs were obviously lower because it was space that our logistic partner was in already. The human component and cost of that was able to be double leverage as well, because they already had labor for their core business, and they were able to use the CloudSort software to also, from the supply side, the host was able to generate revenue to help pay for things like rent and things like that. And then we were able to pass that savings on to the shipper. So, and then while we're at it, we're able to reduce the number of trucks on the road as well, right? So why not share transportation and real estate to also reduce carbon emissions and preserve the human race ultimately, right?
There you go. Yeah, no, I think, the future for supply chain leaders is like what you said, blending that technology solution with leading not only, customers and problem solving, but tying that to the programs and the engineers that make that work so much better and continuous improvement on that side. So, and that's kind of what you said through your example, which is fantastic. I appreciate that. Anything else before we close? I know we're coming to the end of our time, but is anything else you wanted to share?
Yeah, maybe, or actually two things. So one, to address your last question, just in case some of the viewers wanted a little more like a more data oriented answer. So part of like the modeling and analytics as the next generation is working to solve for the middle mile. All that means is, network with new carriers, figure out their zip code coverage, their volume capabilities, and make that an input to your model. So the model is now considering, how do I have this more shared model versus creating like net new capacity to address everything. So that ends up being, I think, the function that the new leaders can start to adopt in their modeling, just to
That's great.
make it a little little more quantified here. And then I think the last thing, yeah, from the CloudSort side, Wade, is don't be intimidated by the middle mile. There's software like CloudSort here that can really enable any retailer shipper of any size, both the demand side and the supply side, to really own the middle mile. So we're here to empower folks to take control of the middle mile and figure out how to build scalable delivery solutions that are ultimately flexible, that meet their specific requirements, versus having to just go out with status quo solutions that you have to make sacrifices on in terms of what your delivery requirements and things like that. So main message is you can take control of your middle mile by using software like CloudSort.
Well, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. And I know it's been kind of hectic with the show. We've had announcements and different things going on, but it's been a great conversation and really fun and exciting to hear about CloudSort and what's going on and how it's a game changer in the industry. I'll put the website also in the description, and your LinkedIn profile I will also put in the description. I guess it's cloudsort.com. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Fantastic. Well, thank you again. I know it's a busy show, and thank you for taking time out of the show to be on my podcast. I appreciate that so much.
Thank you so much, Wade. Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this video. We'll have more videos coming down the road. This is an exciting adventure for us. My name is Wade Wickus. I'm CEO of the Supply Chain Secret Sauce. We specialize in e-commerce and building bulletproof supply chains to scale. We're helping companies every day, and we do this through your support. Please pass this on, link this to other things, and hope you found the content very valuable. Have a great day, and thank you.